Should you use a talisman as a retrieval cue during your anxiety exposure? From a scientific point of view, there are some good reasons for a talisman, like, for example, a little stone or a soft toy or a cross, because they can work as retrieval cues, which remind you that in the past, because you were wearing them in the past, they remind you that in the past you were able to face your fear as well. But on the other hand, there are also some cons, because some scientists say if you use this talisman for facing your fear, it is some kind of safety behavior. So you might learn that only when you have your talisman, only if you have your cross, your magic stone, only then you are able to face your fear, to go through all these situations. So it's very interesting to take a look at actual studies in which talismans were tested. Surprisingly, in most studies, talismans were not helpful. So if people were, for example, allowed to take a stone with them as a retrieval cue, that in the past they were able to face their fear, and in a new situation they again had to face their fear with the stone, it didn't make a difference. But this pattern of results could not be shown in all studies. Take, for example, a look at a study by Shin and Newman published in 2017, in which they used very strong retrieval cues. So in their study, participants had to go through a public speaking exposure therapy in which they had to give a short speech in front of a critical audience. But during their speech, and now I quote from the study, they were told to hold in their hand tightly a uniquely textured green puffer ball and were presented continuously with peppermint scent and white noise. So there were these three quite strong stimuli, these three quite strong retrieval cues that, of course, you in a normal everyday situation, you don't have such strong retrieval cues usually. So this is something you have to keep in mind. But 1 week later, they were invited again, and they again had to give speeches, but this time about other topics. So, for example, they were talking about abortion, animal experiments, or nuclear power. So quite difficult topics. But one group was again presented with the same stimuli, with the same retrieval cues, like the rubber ball, the peppermint scent, and the white noise. In comparison to the control condition, in this study, indeed, the retrieval cues helped them to experience less fear. So, for example, also their heart rate was lower than, for example, the heart rate of the people of the control condition. So retrieval cues, if they are really strong, can help. So maybe a very strong talisman that you took with you many, many years, and you believe very strong in this talisman, and it has a very strong impact on you, maybe this could be helpful. But as I said in the beginning, you also have to keep in mind that a talisman restricts you, because you are only strong as long as you have it. So for situations in which you forgot it or you don't have it with you, you might feel a little bit weaker, because it's some kind of safety behavior to always have it with you. So ideally, you don't have to take it with you all the time. And indeed, this is something that could be shown in other studies, that safety behaviors, like, for example, if you have to confront a spider and if you are allowed to use gloves, for example, to touch the spider, if you use this only in the beginning, just in order to get you going, just in order to bring you into the confrontation, this actually can be helpful, and then the therapy is not less effective than if you hadn't used these safety behaviors in the beginning. So if you have a talisman and you feel like, well, I can only face the fear-evoking situations if I have it with me, then it might be very helpful that from time to time you don't take it with you, in order to learn that you can cope with all these situations also without this safety behavior. Finally, let's take a short look at what is a very interesting and easy alternative to the retrieval cue of a talisman. And a really very easy strategy is the so-called mental reinstatement, in which you, if you have to face a situation that usually creates a lot of fear for you, like for example, a public speaking situation, or you have to enter an airplane, whatever it is, just before you do it, remember yourself of situations in the past in which you were able to cope with these situations, in which you successfully, for example, gave a speech, or in which you successfully entered an airplane and you were able to, even though of course you felt a lot of fear in the beginning, but nevertheless you made it. And if you use this mental reinstatement, if you use these resources within yourself, within your memory, it could be shown in a study with spider phobics that those participants who right before facing the spider again remembered themselves that, well, weeks before they were able to expose themselves to the spider, those participants, in comparison to a control condition, indeed experienced less fear. So this is a really easy strategy in which you have the retrieval cue always with you. You have it in your brain and you can use it whenever you want. And of course, the more often you face your fear, the more resources, the more memories you will create in which you successfully faced your anxiety, and therefore your safety memories will become stronger and stronger, and you will be able to climb up the upward spiral to cope with your anxiety better and better. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want, we will see you next time.